Honestly, my favorite parts of like the past, honestly, since Gentle Criminal has been introduced, every episode has had so many great moments or little moments or just moments that made me smile or thought that was really clever. But honestly, my favorite parts ever since this arc has started have been the smallest details that not many people are going to care about, but just always impress me because it's a level of detail you don't usually see, especially when you have such a fun personality as an antagonist, as basically someone is chasing after social media presence. Usually that would be the focus, and of course, a little band gimmick and things like that. But honestly, the little moments such as the idea that we have All Might, right? All Might has said in previous episodes that he tried using equipment, but it was too bulky, so he gave up on it. And naturally, something that would happen over time if this was a real breathing society that is based on a seemingly relatable version of Earth just with superpowers. Technology should naturally progress at a very quick pace that even a generation later, things should be a lot less bulky. And the fact that Deku was able to get gloves that weren't going to basically impact his speed or mobility, and All Might was actually impressed by that, is something you don't see touched upon. Usually, it's just like people will just write a story in a way that feels like a plot device, where here we have something that felt like, oh, technology naturally and very quickly grew over time the same way. Just 10 years ago, look at what a computer looked like compared to what they look like now. I love little moments like that, or even how Deku, the reason he's actually getting a lot better with his shooting style with his fingertips is honestly because of his dancing. And that's something that I don't remember seeing touched upon in a battle shonen in quite some time, because honestly, if you look back in history and read up on it, a lot of knights and people who used swords back in the day, a lot of times part of their training was dancing, because the idea of dancing is a set number of moves and how you operate in it actually aids in swordplay. So just little moments like that really do bring an episode to life. But I mean, of course, the little moments are great, but I mean, we can't get a mistake. And Deku versus Gentle Criminal was something I wasn't expecting, but that was a blessing. I mean, every time we've kind of gone up against a villain in this series, I feel like I've kind of been like, oh shit, please let someone come and rescue them or not let them get hurt. But this was the first time I'm like, you know what, let's just let it play out. Let's see what's gonna happen here. I really want to see what Gentle's ability is. And I also really want to see, like, how Deku's going to deal with that. And the fact that they had this, like, meetup, because, I mean, of course, this is a guy who plans his entire life around tea, so he's going to go to the one place that has his brand, but he didn't take into consideration that they're planning a school festival and they might need hardware supplies. And the fact that they bumped into each other and he just couldn't turn away because he mentioned his tea, like, that's something that, I mean, in any other case could probably be criticized. Like, are you kidding me? The villain, the antagonist, he literally let his guard down because of tea, but we really gotta take into consideration what this villain represents in the grand scheme of things. This is someone who's chasing after social media presence. He's literally making YouTube videos and trying to be a viral sensation. He's not the same as an overhaul who's playing it sneaky and, going in the shadow. He wants to be noticed, and at the same time, he really is just a normal guy with a little twisted view on reality and social media, which honestly, if you're making YouTube videos, it's very easy for someone to get lost in that train of thought, not understanding what you should and shouldn't do. And that little kind of showdown where they both slowly realize what's happening and Deku getting fired up, I wasn't sure what to expect with this fight. I thought it was either going to be one of two things, either really funny or really badass, and just it would be like a 1-2 KO, something like that. But they kind of blended it, because I'm really glad that they made Gentle Criminal someone who actually does have an interesting ability, being able to basically stretch anything, even air, which I think is awesome because he can literally hop around in mid-air, which is pretty cool, I have to say. It's something I wasn't expecting and really added on to his personality tenfold. And based on seemingly the end of the episode, it looks like La Brava is also going to highlight her ability, because when you first get introduced to a character like these two, you assume that he's someone who has no real skill, because that's usually how it's written, someone with no skill, and the person who's in awe of this like amazing god of a creature, at least from their point of view, usually has the best abilities but is basically treated as a camera woman or something like that. But it's quite interesting how they both seemingly will have abilities, and, even though Gentle Criminal definitely has a warped view on reality, he's not incompetent. He actually was able to hold his own against Deku, even if it was a little more trollish than we're typically used to in a battle sequence. And Deku, I have to say, not only getting a taste of his new gloves, which was really cool, not only is he getting better at being able to shoot midair, his gloves can actually, like, take in the surroundings and the airflow and things like that, which basically gives him so many possibilities going forward, especially in future combat scenes where Usually, if he was going up against a monstrous beast, if he had to attack, he would have to go on head first. But now he's actually going to be able to keep his distance a bit more, which should save his body in the long term. It's really nice to see how he's evolving and also how his suit's evolving and things like that, but the entire battle and it was wild. It kind of felt like a funhouse would probably be the best way to describe it, because you have someone who's fighting in a construction yard where there's all these metal poles and beams, and he's just making them bounce around as he jumps around. If he gets too close, he basically sends it right back towards him. And there was plenty of moments in this episode that were very reminiscent to some of the looks that Deku gave, like Overhaul and things like that. Those really dramatic, like, life or death situations, and then you'd switch back to like, oh wait, this isn't actually all that intense. Like, what's really intense here is we don't want the school festival to be closed, because Aries really excited. Like, there's so many things on the line. For them, it is just a school festival at the end of the day, right? It's not at the end of the world. If you take into consideration what the school's been through, what these students have been through mentally and physically, this is a really important situation, so you understand where Deku's coming from. It is just hilarious to sometimes look back at Gentle and just be like, oh man, this guy just doesn't take it serious. He's like, don't worry, I'll shut off the alarms. Not taking into consideration that if there's no alarms and he's there, a bigger and badder villain can pop up and actually ruin it. Like, he just doesn't take into consideration because he's trapped in his own social media bubble. And if that isn't relatable, I don't know what is. Like, the entire concept of him is like one of the best ways to go out this season. And I think based on what's been revealed for the episode names, I think next week or either the week after, this arc should be over. And then I think they're going to start the next arc and then leave us off on a teaser before obviously confirming the next season, because we know this show comes out once a year. It's been happening every single year, so we know it's going to happen. But it is going to be really fun to see what's going to happen, because I mean, he's not giving up. The fact that you had this moment, which is one of the most badass moments in the past few episodes, where he's basically like, hey, I got places to be, I'll catch you later, as he basically lets the beam fall on an innocent bystander, which I was actually thinking to myself, oh, this dude's a dick. He's pretty much the same as everyone. But I actually do believe that he wasn't actually going to let it happen. He figured that Deku was going to save the guy, and he would just basically put the bolts back in, stop it, or things like that. So I actually do believe Gentle was being serious. He wasn't actually going to harm people. He just wasn't expecting Deku to basically be the Hulk and be able to carry this entire beam. But that moment where he put all his strength into one arm as he then shot him out of the air was so badass. Like, you just are constantly fighting yourself saying, is this badass or hilarious? It's a little hilarious, it's a little silly, no, it's badass and dramatic. It just keeps fighting back and forth, because depending on what you're viewing it from, either gentle criminal trying to make a viral sensation, or someone who's trying to keep everyone's lives intact because literally this festival means the world to them, because they do need a stress reliever because they are kids. It actually is hilarious and also just so well written on the process to see these conflicting ideas and beliefs, and the fact that just a simple walk to the store to get some rope so you could drag your friend across the ceiling turned into one of the more memorable fights of this season, which is saying a hell of a lot, I have to say, because there's been some great fights. But the whole arc and the idea for this arc alone is refreshing and honestly something that I don't think you can actually compare to. Minus the school festival, like that stuff, yeah, you can compare that. But Gentle Criminal and La Brava, I haven't seen done in a battle shonen before, and I'd love to see more ideas like that tackled in the future. Because as we grow up with basically social media and just the internet in general, I would like to see more authors take into consideration what the new world looks like in comparison if you were to write a modern day superhero story or crime story, anything like that. And I think probably a big part of that in the reason why we don't see more gentle criminals in the world of anime and manga probably is because a lot of those heavy hitters, those long-running series that get into big anime adaptations, they are older, maybe aren't as into social media and things like that, which probably is for the best because social media isn't actually all that great, all things considered. But it is nice to see a show like My Hero Academia take in those more modern ideas, and it'll be cool to see what other younger minds in the mangaka world and things like that will create a series, then eventually get an anime adaptation, just to see how they take the modern ideas and what they could do with it, with a vampire story, a demon story, a superhero story, a crime detective story, right? There's so many ways to just take internet culture in general and do something interesting, whether that's really serious or something super silly and just, you know, you kind of love it all at the same time, even though you realize that it could really ruin these characters' day and probably month in general. This episode is just really, really fun. Honestly, in some ways, you kind of wish that you could have 20 episodes of Gentle Criminal, but you know, the idea that we're going for here, it can't last forever, nor should it. I think it's better to go out on a high note, not drag it out, rather than drag it out and make us feel like, oh, the idea that you're going for, it definitely went stale. So I think having it be like the last real big thing that we're focusing on before obviously teasing and starting the next arc is probably the best way to wrap up this amazing season of My Hero Academia. And the first little chunk that we had before basically everything kind of started going a little insane was cute. It was pretty much what we've come to expect over the past few weeks, but it was nice to see these characters really get nervous but also excited all wrapped up into one, which we've all been there, right? You know, you have a big day planned tomorrow, whether you're a star of the show or you're just really excited to see what's going to happen, you all have those sleepless nights, and it was nice to see those characters really just once again feel like, you know, for the first time in weeks, if not months, they've all been able to, in harmony, be like, you know, we're excited to be kids again. We're excited to be students, not superheroes who are going to have to risk our lives as we also fear for our mentors' lives. It's nice to have those moments and just see what they were planning all along, and honestly, I'm incredibly excited. In a lot of ways, I'd say next week is my most anticipated episode of My Hero Academia in quite some time, just because finally having conflict with Gentle Criminal, someone who probably a lot of us expected would be nothing in the grand scheme of things besides his overall personality, figured his abilities wouldn't be all that impressive, but he has a really creative ability, and who knows what LeBravo's going to be able to do next week and just how Deku is going to deal with it, because if he's fighting them and then they come crashing down the festival, it's all over. Like, what do you do at that point in time? But maybe if they pull it off successfully, maybe even if he does invade, maybe they can still keep it, you know, on the down low, maybe keep the festival going. Maybe she'll actually succeed, turn the alarms off, but that also has its threats in itself. My Hero Academia has shown us so many different things over the years, and even though we're going back to a style of an arc that's very reminiscent of season 1, it's completely a new territory all in the process, and I love moments like that you don't forget what came before, but you don't try to just be what came before. You also push forward into new territory, and that's why this episode was really damn good. As always, I enjoyed My Hero Academia, but let me pass the torch over to you. What did you think? Let me know your thoughts down in the comment section below. If you enjoyed the video, be sure to drop a like, and remember to hit that subscribe button if you happen new around here. So until next time, everyone, please take care and have a good one.